welcome back to my channel. We are going to actually do a reading vlog today. So what brought this about is I went to the library and randomly just picked up a bunch of books. So I wanted to see which ones maybe I would read throughout the course of the week, which ones caught my eye, and kind of bring y'all along. I always think it's fun to do this, just go to the library and read random ones instead of always just reading what's on everyone's list, because I do think I find a lot of great books that way. So I just want to kind of go through them with you, talk about which ones I picked up, and then we'll see which ones I end up picking and which ones I liked and didn't like at the end. So I certainly won't read them all. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. There's 9. That's certainly too many for one reading vlog, so I definitely won't read them all. But when I go to the library, I don't know if this happens to anyone else, I kind of just throw books in my bag and then I figure it out when I get home which ones I actually really want to read and which ones I'll just return. All right, so first we have Still Life by Louise Penny. Honestly, I wasn't planning on picking this one up, but this is a book that I do want to read. I'm in a book club and they talk about Louise Penny all the time, as I think it's like a mystery series following Chief Inspector Armand Gamanche. That sounds very fancy. So this is the first one. It's large print, which is why it's obnoxiously big, but it's just the one they had. So I picked this one up. We'll see if I start the series, but I've heard like decent things about it, so we'll see. All right, then we have The Witching Tide by Margaret Meyer. Right, so this one, I think it's about like a witch hunt. It's a little bit of historical fiction. It's inspired by a deadly witch hunt. Oh, really? Like a real one? Oh, that's cool. All right, so it's inspired by a deadly witch hunt in 17th century England that claimed many innocent lives. So it takes place in 1645, and we're following Martha Hallibread. And apparently she lost her voice as a child and hasn't spoken in years, and we're kind of following her as she goes through this witch hunt. So there's someone called, the witch finder, Silas Makepeace. That's ironic. So now he has come to Cleftwater, which is Martha's town. So I believe, does she help him? Oh yeah, she is enlisted to search for the accused women. So kind of seeing how that goes. That sounds pretty good. All right, then we have The Land of Lost Things by John Connolly. Oops, I almost just dropped that. This one is about an 8-year-old girl, Phoebe, who is in a coma. And her mom is sitting by her bedside reading her fairy stories that Phoebe used to love. And then basically there's an old house on the hospital grounds, and the property is connected to a book written by a vanished author. So it's basically just, I guess, following that thing. That sounds really cool. I actually looked this one up when I came home, and there is another book. There's a first one, so I need to find out if I need to read the first book before I read this book, before I pick this one up. I think it's called like Lost Books or something like that. All right, then we have The Witches at the End of the World. I honestly picked this one up because of the cover. I thought it was super cool. So basically it takes place in Norway, and we're following 2 sisters, Kaja and Mina, and the mom has died. So that's the day their mother burned. So I kind of assume by that maybe they think the mom is a witch, because after that says that the girls were driven from their village. Kaja and Mina are witches, and Kaja doesn't really want anything to do with her powers. She just wants to live a peaceful life, but Mina is very much like, I'm a witch, I'm powerful, I'm going to do that. And so basically Mina goes off and on like this path of destruction. And then it's kind of, I guess, following the 2 sisters. I'm wondering if it's in, yes, 2 points of view. So we have Kaja, I hope I'm saying that right, Kaja's point of view, and then Mina's point of view throughout the book. That sounds really good. All right, then we have The Village. Literally, these stickers, y'all, are driving me insane. The Little Village of Book Lovers by Nina George. Yes, by Nina George. Apparently, this is like part of the Little Paris bookshop. I never read that book, so now I'm wondering if I have to read it before I read this. But the blurb is basically that in the Little Paris bookshop, the literary apothecary Jean Perdue was inspired to create a floating bookstore. And this is that bookstore. So I guess we're just following her there. It's a little town in the south of France in the 1960s. So that sounds cute. All right, next we have Adult Assembly Required. It is by the same author who wrote The Bookish Life of Nina Hill. I don't know if you can see that book right there, and I love that book, so I picked this one up. I did, honestly, a couple days ago I started reading the first few pages, and I wasn't super into it, but I might hold on to it just to pick it up again because I did really like that book. Then we have the Book of Lost Names. So this is a historical fiction book, and it's following a librarian in Florida, and she's looking at like a newspaper on her desk, and she realizes the photo in that newspaper is of this book that no one has seen and no one has supposed to seen. Like, I think it's supposed to be gone. All right, so basically this book was written during World War II when the Nazis were taking over. So she was actually part of writing in this book. So in the book, they keep a record of the real names of children, so that way they can be connected to their families. And so she sees the book in the paper and then basically knows that she was a part of it. And I think we're kind of following her. I'm sure we're going to go back in time and see like what happened, how she was a part of that book. And then also, oh yeah, because it says 1942. So we're going back in time. Following her as she's a part of that book. And then I'm sure now as she's uncovering the secrets and sharing that with the world. So that sounds really cool. Then we have The Witch of Wild Things. This one is following a girl named Sage who has to move back to her small town. And apparently in that small town, there is someone named Tennessee Reyes who she used to love as a high schooler. So she's going back to her small town, which she doesn't want to go to. Tennessee is there, so there's, I think, a little romance going on there. And then also she has magical powers. So kind of like a witchy romance. And then the last one I picked up was The Hurricane Blonde. Actually a thriller, which is nothing like the rest of the books that I picked up, but I do really enjoy thrillers. So this one follows Salma, who's basically Hollywood royalty, and her sister was murdered 20 years ago in the 90s, and no one knows how her sister was murdered. Salma runs this bus tour where she takes tourists to like different houses where Hollywood starlets have died. And so as she's on that tour, there's another girl dead in the pool where her sister died. And so I guess we're following Salma trying to figure out what actually happened to her sister, if that's somehow connected what happened to this girl, why are all these girls dying at this one house. So it's supposed to be thrillery, hopefully it has a good twist. I feel like I'll start with this one because thrillers are usually pretty fast paced and easy to get to. So we'll see. I'll see you again in a little bit as I work through and kind of figure out which books I want to read. Again, definitely not reading them all, but we'll read some. Hey guys, so I'm about 100 pages in on The Hurricane Blonde, so I kind of wanted to update you how it's going. So far, I do like it. It's definitely fast-paced. I wanted to start with this one because I felt like it'd be a good kickoff as a thriller. So we're following Salma, who was basically a child actress. Her whole family's in Hollywood, and her sister was murdered in the 90s, and her killer was never found. So Salma's been like kind of carrying that around for years because she's the one that found the sister. And now what she does is she gave up acting and she is in charge of like this tour where basically she takes people on tour of like dead Hollywood stars, essentially. And so one of the houses that they go to visit is actually, they call it Jacaranda House, which is where her sister Tawny was murdered. And so in the book, like within the first couple of pages, you're following Salma while she's giving this tour to a group of people, and she stops. The last house is the Jacaranda House, and she's like going through a whole spiel about how her sister was found. And then someone's like, hey, there's somebody in the pool, and Salma ends up finding another girl in the pool dead, which is basically
kind of the same place that her sister died. And come to find out, the girl like looks like her sister, and the girl is starring in a movie kind of about her sister. So it's following Salma through that. So first 100 pages, definitely like it. I'm definitely going to continue reading it. Like I said, fast paced. I'm invested in the story. I want to know what happens. There's definitely a few weird things that have been going on. I won't give it away for spoiler purposes, that made me think like the sister is part of like a whole bigger thing. And they kind of allude to that in the back. Like it's not just a one-time murder thing. But I can definitely tell that they're trying to, or the author rather, I feel like she's trying to steer us towards one way, but I feel like that's the obvious choice, so it's not going to be that. So I'm definitely curious to see, you know, what happens and how the story continues. Because right now it's going back and forth, which I really like. So it's going back and forth between what's happening now, like in the present after Salma finds that girl's body, and what she's doing now to try and figure out what happened. And then also in 1997 and the years following that, after her sister was murdered, and how she coped with that. So I like the back and forth because I think we'll be able to see like some connections between the two girls. So definitely like it. Gonna keep reading it, and I'll update you guys in a little bit. All right, so I'm back. I'm on page 256. So I have like 100 pages left. It's all right. I've read like 150 pages since I last checked in with y'all, and I don't really feel like too much has happened. It's kind of just been going in the same direction, and there was like a little twist, but honestly I guessed it before that happened, because they were kind of leading to that. So I don't know. I'm hoping that it doesn't just end the way I think it's gonna end, because that would suck, because I think there's like potential for like a really good twist in this one, because it is a cool story. The fact that, you know, it takes place in Hollywood, and there's like 2 actresses that die, and there's like a crazy director, and so I think it like has the potential to be really cool, and like there could be a really cool twist at the end, but I'm not so sure. So I'm gonna finish it up, and then I will check back in with y'all.
All right, let's do a bit of an update on the Hurricane Blonde. So I did finish it. I think when I updated you guys last, I was saying that they were kind of leading us in one direction. So the book did move quickly. I felt like it was pretty fast paced. But honestly, when I got to the end, I was unimpressed. Like I didn't guess the ending per se, but like I said before, there was a twist that I'd kind of already figured out that was going to happen. It was pretty obvious what they were leading to. And then when it got to the end, I just felt like, really, that's the direction we're going to go with it. And I wasn't sold. So it wasn't like a terrible book. Like I said, the writing was pretty quick. I couldn't root for the main character. So Salma, like I couldn't really root for her. She kind of annoyed me at certain points. And then it just almost seemed like she was crazy obsessive over this whole thing. And then at the end, I don't know. It was weird. So I'm going to go ahead and just give it like 3.5 stars, maybe. I wouldn't say like run the other direction if you want to read this. Like if you like old Hollywood, and you like the idea of kind of a book set there. I mean, it's not even old Hollywood. I'm just saying like an old Hollywood family. So if you like that, maybe you would enjoy this more. At the end, honestly, I kind of felt like I was watching a reality show, like just the way it played out, and it was just, I don't know, just not really what I'm looking for in a thriller. So 3.5 stars, decent for a random library book pickup that I knew nothing about. Now, I have started Witch of Wild Things by Raquel Vasquez Gilliland. So good. I'm halfway through the book. I'm definitely going to finish it today. And essentially, you're following our main character, whose name is Sage. And all of the women in her family have like this magical power. I think because it's considered like a curse, so no one knows what the magical power is going to be until the girls that come of age. So her little power is she can control plants. Um, and then she's really good with plants. And then she has two sisters, Teal, who controls the sky, so she can make it storm, and then Sky, who can talk to animals. And then she lives with, or she used to live with, her great aunt Nadia. And we're following Sage, basically, that it opens up where she's moving away from her house, her apartment. She was a teacher, like with jewelry making. She's very good at it, and she was a jewelry making teacher. And got cut because of budget cuts, but really it was because she was seeing one of the professors, or the department head. She was seeing the department head, and then she broke it off, and then all of a sudden her department got cut. So she's kind of moving back into her great aunt's house, like in disgrace. She doesn't want to go back there, and um, you find out like just very early on into the book that her sister Teal doesn't speak to her, and they have a very bad relationship because Sky ended up dying like years and years and years ago, and Teal blames Sage for Sky's death. Um, and then there's also this part where Sky is haunting Sage. Like Sky's ghost is haunting Sage, but there's like weird things going on with her ghost, and so Sky's trying to figure that out throughout the book. And then there's just so many good things in this book. So many good things. I had literally never heard of this book. It was just sitting on a random library table at my library, and I picked it up. And I think this is going to be one of my favorite books of the year, to be honest with you. And then there's a love triangle, kind of. Well, sort of. So Sage has a crush on this guy, Nate, who is an owner of a farm that she works on. She was like the plant whisperer when she used to live in this town. What is the town called? Cranberry Rose. Wow, such a cute name. So Cranberry Rose, she used to live in this town, and now she's moved back there, and so she has a crush on the farm owner, Nate. And then as a plot twist, there is this, you find this out in the beginning, I promise I'm giving it anyway. You find out that this man, Tennessee Reyes, who she was like in love with in high school, is also now working on the farm, and Nate wants Tennessee and Sage to work together. So you go back in time to Tennessee and Sage's romance, but the way you see it is through AIM messages. I literally love it. Like, so every, like, at the beginning of every chapter or so, it's just little, let me find a good spot to show you. It's just like little, like their screen names and everything, which I love because it's just so funny that that's how they're communicating. But I mean, that makes sense because it's like basically supposed to be 15 years ago. So that's how you kind of see what happened. So Sage knows that it was Tennessee that she was AIMing. Tennessee has no idea that it was Sage. And so she has all these memories of him, and she alludes to the fact that like he broke her heart and ripped it into shreds, but you don't know how. And so now we're just basically, the whole story is us following Sage's relationship with her family, if she wants to put that back together, and then you're getting little tidbits about Sky and what happened there, and then also Sage now working with Ten, and her trying to be nice to him even though she hates him for what he did to her, because he has no idea that he did that to her, and he doesn't even know that they went to the same high school. So, and as an adult, they're like flirting with each other. So he kind of likes her as an adult, and she doesn't want anything to do with it because he ripped her heart out when she was 17. I like it's like romance with like a little bit of magic, and also AIM messages. Like this should be on everyone's reading list. So like I said, I'm probably going to finish it today. I'm definitely going to read as much as I can of it today, and then I will update y'all when I'm done. But as of right now, go get this book, please. It is so good. So good. Okay, it's later. I'm back. I finished it. So good. Oh man, so good. Honestly, I'm like torn between giving it a 4.5 and a 5 stars, but this is one of those books that I want to buy it, even though I've already read it, so I can go in and like highlight all my favorite parts. It's just like a beautiful story, forgiveness and family, and like, I just love it. Um, so obviously, I'm not going to give away how it ended, but it was just great. And the rest of the book, like with the magic and like the parts of bringing in nature because of Sage's gift, and then the romance and the relationships that she has with her sister and her sister's ghost and all of that. It was so good. It was so good. And then I read the acknowledgments, which I always do if I really liked a book, and it turns out that the author of this book, she had originally written a different book and she hated it. So then she picked out like the three parts that she liked about the book, which was essentially Tennessee Sage and then the wild magic. And then she kind of like rewrote a whole new book out of it. So this is her third novel. It's not a debut novel. So I definitely will be looking into some more novels of hers because I just was captivated by her writing and I thought it flowed really nicely. I was engrossed in the story. And there were a lot of pieces of the story without it being too much. Like sometimes you can have a lot of different plot points in a lot of different areas and it just feels like too much, and this didn't. Like it just felt perfect. So I loved it. Highly recommend. All right, now I have to figure out what I'm going to read next, and I have no idea. I don't know if I want to read. I have two other witchy books. I don't know why I got so many witchy books from the library. It's January. It's not fall. But I feel like I'm going to pass on the other witchy books for now. I don't think I'm going to return them. I honestly think I do want to read them. But I think for the purposes of this vlog, I don't think I'm going to read those. I feel like I'm going to go with this one. The Little Village of Book Lovers. It sounds sweet and charming. A little bit different than the other books that I've read so far. Taking place in Paris, no magic, a bookshop. So I think I'll like it. So I think I'm going to go with this one. I will update you on a little bit. Probably not today because it's already kind of late, but maybe tomorrow or the day after. See how it's going so far.
All right, I'm back with an update about the Little Village of Book Lovers. This is nothing like what I thought it was going to be. I'm honestly only about halfway through and I am going to finish it, but not for this reading vlog because it is taking me a little bit longer to read than I thought. So basically it is the story of a mobile bookstore in Paris, but it's told from the point of view of love, the thing love. I'm not really sure how to explain it, but so it starts off where Love is watching over this baby girl whose parents have passed, her grandfather has passed, and she's being taken care of by her grandmother. And then death comes and takes the grandmother, and Love is basically like, well, what are we supposed to do now? And the baby girl is being looked after now by this olive tree who then says, well, Love, you are bound to her forever. So then it kind of fast forward and it turns out that Marie Jean, who is the little girl, is basically being raised by foster parents. And her foster father, whose name is Francis, essentially gets the idea to make a mobile bookshop and give the people of this small French town books. So it's based in the 1960s where it's interesting because it's talking about like older ideas of tradition and then new ideas. It calls them like hippie ideas, things that were going on in like the late 60s, early 70s. So there's all of these new ideas of what people can be doing instead of what they were doing in kind of the older traditional ways. So at first, when Francis is going and saying that he wants to open this mobile bookshop, he's talking to the men in the family and they're basically like, no, we don't want books because then our daughters and wives will get ideas. We don't want them to have any ideas. And then Francis essentially meets a bed and breakfast owner, and she says to him, well, why are you talking to the men? They're not going to buy your books. So then basically he talks to the women, and the women are like, yes, I want this mobile bookshop. And then eventually the men also get along with it and it becomes really popular. And then on top of that, Marie Jean can see love. So she doesn't know that she can see love. And so basically what it looks like to her is she calls like they're glowing, like people are glowing, or like their heads might be glowing when they're kissed on their head by a loved one, or if they touch a loved one, their hands might be glowing. And so she's trying to ask around to why she's seeing this glow and no one else is seeing this glow. And Love, the one who's telling the story, understands that she can see Love, but Love can't talk to her to tell her that. So basically where we're at in the story is just following Francis while he's opening this mobile bookshop, and then following Marie Jean while she figures out that she can see Love and kind of what she knows about Love, but she doesn't exactly know that she can see Love. And then eventually it's supposed to get to a point where it's saying, like in the summary, where she basically connects people, like she can connect soulmates because she can see Love, and then she's wondering why she can't see that herself or find a soulmate for herself. So it's been really interesting, not at all what I thought. I will say though, there are a lot of great quotes in here just about books in general. Like I think this is a good book to read if you love books. Even just in the beginning, let's see. So why else would we gather together in this book if we hadn't already decided that books are precisely where magic, the great wide world, miracles, and good explanations may all converge? So I thought that was really beautiful. And it's interesting because in this book, it's essentially a town of people who didn't really have access to books or have any interest in books. So you're finding out, it's like watching a whole town of people learn how to read at the same time. Even though they knew how to read, they just didn't necessarily have access to books. So you're watching this all unfold and like the ideas that come from that. So it's been interesting, but it's definitely a slower paced book. So I'm not going to finish it by the end of this week, but I still wanted to update you on how it goes. Overall, I'd say a pretty successful week for the reading blog. We've got 3 books. Hurricane Blonde ended up with 3.5 stars. Witch of Wild Things, I'm going to stick with 4.5, but highly recommend that you read this one. And then Little Village of Book Lovers. I would say overall a pretty successful reading blog, especially for 3 books that I knew nothing about going into this week. So thanks again for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I will see you next time.